Chapter 9. Journey into the Great Hall of Records. As dawn broke over the ancient sands of Egypt, Dale, Sophie, and Dr. Anderson prepared to embark on their daring expedition beneath the Sphinx. As they wandered through the bustling open-air markets of Cairo, the air was filled with a cacophony of sounds and a kaleidoscope of colors. Fragrant spices wafted through the air, mingling with the earthy scent of freshly baked bread and the sweet aroma of ripe fruits. Stalls adorned with vibrant fabrics and intricate carpets lined the narrow pathways, their rich hues catching the sunlight and casting a warm glow over the bustling scene. Merchants called out to passers-by, touting their wares with animated gestures and persuasive voices. Among the masses of shoppers, street performers entertained with lively music and mesmerizing dances, adding to the vibrant atmosphere of the market. Children darted through the crowd, their laughter ringing out as they played games and chased each other through the maze of stalls. As they immersed themselves in the vibrant tapestry of life in the open-air markets, they couldn't help but marvel at the rich cultural heritage that surrounded them, a testament to the enduring spirit of Egypt and its people. Dale, Sophie, and Dr. Anderson made their way through the crowds of people, their eyes scanning the stalls for the supplies they needed. They found a vendor selling electronic components and quickly purchased a taser, electronic wire, alligator clamps, and a couple of burner phones. Back at their hotel, they spread out their purchases on a makeshift workbench. Dale began connecting the wires while Sophie and Dr. Anderson discussed the logistics of their plan. Sophie held up one of the burner phones. "So, we wire the speaker of this phone to the relay switch, right?" Dale nodded, maintaining his concentration. "Exactly. Then, when we activate the relay switch by calling the phone, it'll turn on the power to the taser, causing it to discharge." Dale finished connecting the wires and tested the makeshift device. "Seems to be working," he said with a grin. "Now we just need to attach some wires with the alligator clamps to the taser prongs and find a way to discreetly clamp it onto the CCTV wire." As Sophie sat watching Dale build a device to take out the cameras remotely, her mind raced with questions about Dale's past. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to him than met the eye. He was always so calm under pressure, his skills and knowledge extending far beyond those of a typical archaeologist. As she sifted through her memories of their time together, one particular instance stood out. Their conversation on the bus when Dale effortlessly slipped into a flawless British accent while discussing their plan to use their new credentials. It was as if he had been trained for such situations, his demeanor and language betraying a level of expertise that seemed out of place for a mere archaeologist. Sophie frowned as she considered the implications. Could Dale have been involved in something more secretive before he became an archaeologist? The thought sent a shiver down her spine. Perhaps he had been a spy, working for organizations like the CIA or British intelligence. But why would he leave such a life behind to pursue archaeology? Sophie couldn't make sense of it. Was he running from something, or was there another reason for his sudden change in career path? As she pondered these questions, Sophie realized that she may never uncover the truth about Dale's past. He was a man of many mysteries, and she doubted he would ever reveal his secrets willingly. With a sigh, Sophie pushed aside her thoughts and turned her attention to the task at hand. Regardless of Dale's past, they had a mission to complete, and she was determined to see it through to the end. But deep down, a part of her would always wonder about the enigmatic archaeologist who had captured her curiosity and her heart. They went over their plan one last time, ensuring that every detail was in place for their daring expedition beneath the Great Sphinx. "We will use my credentials to gain access to the Great Pyramid after setting up the taser to take out the cameras. You two will be posing as my assistants," Stephen explained, his voice steady with determination. "If that doesn't work, I will slip the guard some money. So far that hasn't failed. Once inside, we'll make our way down into the tunnels that lead to the Sphinx and ultimately to the Great Hall of Records." Dale and Sophie nodded in agreement. "These tunnels have been my key to accessing the records in the past. We'll follow the same path I've used before, navigating through the tangled passages until we reach the chamber beneath the Great Sphinx. You both will need to stay close and don't get separated or you could get lost." Stephen finished up. Sophie listened intently, her mind already racing ahead to the challenges they would face. "Once we're in the chamber, we'll locate the machine that translates the discs?" she asked, her voice tinged with excitement. Stephen answered. "Yes, we'll retrieve the discs, Dale will grab the translator and we will head further down the tunnels, making our way to the exit point near the Valley Temple of Khafra." Stephen smiled, a glint of anticipation in his eyes. "That's where we'll activate the taser to disable the security cameras," he said. "Then, we'll make our way across the sand, north of the restrooms and south of the ticket booth, to avoid detection." With their plan firmly in place, they made their final preparations, checking their equipment and ensuring that they were ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. The evening finally arrived, and they set off. Dr. Anderson, Dale and Sophie headed to the security office by the Great Pyramid. After a short conversation, and a little bit of money exchanging hands, the guard agreed to let them through. They would have to slip past an unsuspecting guard to gain access to the tunnels. With hearts pounding and adrenaline coursing through their veins, they followed Dr. Anderson as crept past the guard and into the tunnels, where he navigated through the narrow passages leading to the Hall of Records. The corridors seemed to stretch on endlessly, the air heavy with the weight of centuries past. Dr. Anderson's years of research and exploration proved invaluable as he deftly led the way, his every step calculated to avoid detection. Suddenly, they heard the faint sound of footsteps echoing through the passageways. The guards were on the move. With quick thinking and silent communication, they pressed themselves against the rough stone walls, their breath held in anticipation as the guards passed by. Dr. Anderson furrowed his brow in confusion. "It's strange," he murmured, his voice barely audible over the sound of their footsteps. "I've never seen guards moving around down here before. It's usually deserted." Dale and Sophie exchanged glances, their unease growing with each passing moment. "Do you think they're onto us?" Sophie whispered, her voice tinged with apprehension. Dr. Anderson shook his head, his expression thoughtful. "I'm not sure," he replied. "But we can't afford to let it slow us down. We need to keep moving if we're going to reach the Great Hall of Records." As the footsteps faded into the distance, they resumed their journey, their senses heightened and nerves on edge. Each twist and turn of the labyrinthine passages brought them closer to their goal, the anticipation of what lay ahead driving them forward. Finally, they reached a massive stone door adorned with ancient symbols, a silent sentinel guarding the entrance to the Hall of Records. With a sense of trepidation and excitement, Dr. Anderson turned a stone dial until the door clicked. He stepped forward and pressed his hand against the weathered surface. To their amazement, the door swung open with a low rumble, revealing a cavernous chamber beyond. The walls were adorned with intricate carvings and glyphs. It was too dark to see much more. Without hesitation, they stepped into the hall, their eyes wide with wonder as they took in the sight before them. Dr. Anderson directed them to a chamber off to the side of the main chamber of the Hall of Records. They were greeted by rows upon rows of yellow discs neatly arranged on shelves. Dale's eyes widened in amazement as he took in the sight. "This must be it," he whispered, reaching out to touch one of the discs. Sophie nodded, her excitement palpable. "Let's gather as many as we can carry," she said, quickly moving to collect the discs and pack them into their bags. As they made their way towards the room where Dr. Anderson had discovered the translator machine, their anticipation grew. But as they approached, they could hear voices coming from inside. Dr. Anderson frowned. "That's odd," he muttered. "There should not be anyone else down here. No one has ever officially ventured this far in, and the Hall of Records, as far as anyone is concerned, does not exist." They peered into the room to see who was in there with them, and to their dismay it was filled with members of the Serpentis Obscura. Their voices echoing off the stone walls as they examined the ancient artifact within. "We can't risk being caught," Dale whispered urgently. "We need to get out of here before they spot us." Sophie nodded in agreement, her heart racing with adrenaline. "Let's stick to our original plan," she said, her voice determined. "Escape through the tunnel that comes out by the Valley Temple of Khafra." With a sense of urgency, they hurried out of the hall, through the maze of passages towards the exit. Despite the setback, they remained focused on their goal, knowing that they had to escape. As they emerged from the tunnel, their hearts pounding with adrenaline. A quick glance around to ensure they were alone, Dale activated the taser, the crackle of electricity signaling the demise of the security cameras. Just as they started to head out of the tunnel, a thought crossed Dale's mind. With a split-second decision, he turned on his flashlight and dropped it at the entrance of the tunnel, hoping it would attract the guards' attention, and lead them to discover what was going on below, preventing the machine from disappearing, or worse, being destroyed. With their hearts racing, they snuck out of the pyramid complex area, staying low and sticking to the shadows to avoid detection. The night air was cool against their skin as they made their way back to their room, their steps quick and purposeful. As they reached the hotel, a heavy silence hung in the air, their hearts heavy with the weight of their failure to retrieve the translator machine from the Hall of Records. Questions filled the room as they tried to make sense of what had gone wrong. How did they know we were going there? Sophie wondered aloud, her voice tinged with frustration. And how did they know about the translator machine? Dale shook his head, his mind racing with possibilities. Maybe they were already alerted to the existence of the Hall of Records, he suggested. Or maybe they knew it was our next move after Dr. Anderson used the AI to enhance the video. It doesn't matter. Dr. Anderson's shoulders slumped in defeat as he realized the gravity of their situation. "It seems we underestimated our adversaries," he admitted, his voice heavy with regret. "Yes, but they may be in for a surprise," Dale said. "Just as we were about to leave the tunnel," he continued, "a thought crossed my mind. I realized that if we simply slipped away without a trace, the guards might not discover what was going on below. And that could mean the machine disappearing, or worse, being destroyed. So, I turned on my flashlight and dropped it at the entrance of the tunnel. My hope is that it will attract the guards' attention and lead them to discover the Serpentis Obscura's presence, ensuring that the machine will remain safe. It is a long shot, I know. They all sat in silence, digesting their defeat and hoping against hope that Dale's long shot would come through. All of a sudden Sophie's voice cut through the silence like a bolt of lightning. Why don't we just go ask Bigfoot for help? At first, Dale and Dr. Anderson dismissed her suggestion as ridiculous, and began laughing. But as they considered the idea further, they slowly realized that Sophie might be onto something. After all, if Bigfoot existed, they could potentially possess the same advanced technology to read the discs. Dale suddenly said, "Sophie, I think you really are a genius. I'm sorry I laughed at the idea. It's crazy enough to work," Dale mused, a spark of hope igniting in his eyes. "And it's the last thing anyone would expect us to do." With a wry grin, Dale chimed in, "And even if someone does find out what we are up to, they will probably just think that we have lost our minds and leave us alone." A chuckle rippled through the room at the thought of their seemingly absurd plan serving as its own form of protection. But deep down, they knew that their journey to seek help from Bigfoot was anything but a joke. It was their last hope in a world filled with unexpected twists and turns. With renewed determination, they began to plan their next move. Dr. Anderson decided to take a cargo ship back to the United States. He would work for his passage as a cook, taking the yellow discs with him since he lacked the fake credentials to board a plane and would be able to easily smuggle them back to the United States through a cargo ship undetected. Meanwhile, Dale and Sophie would fly back ahead of him, preparing for the expedition. And like that, they were ready to embark on the hardest part of their adventure yet, finding Bigfoot. If you like this chapter or any other chapters, please press the like button and subscribe to get updates and hear the next chapters as soon as they go up.